So with most projects, there's always something called prep, and I'm not exactly sure what this surface is and how well anything would stick to it. So we're going to go ahead and I remove the lid, okay, put that aside. And then I'm just grabbing 220 sandpaper, and I'm just going to lightly sand this, okay? I want to like scuff up the surface a little bit, do what I call give it a little tooth, so that way my paint will adhere. So I'm just sanding around. You can see how some of that black is coming off, which is good because that means I'm definitely creating a little bit of tooth to this, and it'll be a better chance of great adhesion, okay? So we're going to clean that up, and I'm going to go ahead and paint this with our Bondago. So this is the Perfetto Bondago in black, and black is actually the color I wanted underneath, so that is a great place for me to start. So this fits on my hand really well, and I am just going to go ahead and paint the entire surface, okay? So for me, with anything I start and work on, if you have failure, normally failure is your first coat. So I rather take a little extra time and make sure that I'm prepping the surface correctly, and everything will adhere after that. So I know that this is a little bit more work, but well worth it in the end. So this way I know that my foil adhesive is going to adhere, my foils are going to adhere, and then our epoxy is going to seal and protect everything. So I'm just trying to put on the black Bondago with some nice smooth brush strokes. Not trying to create too much texture here, so I'm using a art wash brush, which normally lays the paint down nice and smooth. Okay, I'm also going to hit the bottom of it as well, and then just try to smooth that out. Okay, so we're going to have to let this dry for, I think, probably a couple of hours. Want to make sure everything's dried really well, and then we'll come back for our next layer. Okay, so our black paint is dry, and then our next step is going to be applying some foil adhesive to the surface. And this is under our brand, Artsyville Embellishments. So I'm also using this cup turner that we're going to use a little bit later, but it's actually a great place to put the cup on while you're waiting for your layers to dry. So the foil adhesive just looks milky white in the container, and I always take it out of the container and put it onto like a foam plate. Works great. This is what I call my sticky plate because there's layer and layer of foil adhesive on there. So once you put it onto a foam plate or something similar, this is just a mist bottle, so it sprays a really light coat of water, and I'm just putting a little bit on there so that I can mix it into the foil adhesive, because when I'm brushing it on, it can be a little thick, so I like to water it down. So just add a little bit, maybe 2-3%. This bottle is great because it barely sprays any water out, so that's why I like to use that. And then again, we're going to do the same thing like we did with the black paint. I'm going to go ahead and brush on a full layer of the foil adhesive. So the foil adhesive goes on looking milky white, which is really cool on a dark surface because you can see exactly where you have applied it. And again, I'm trying to minimize my brush stroke. So I am trying to brush it on with full continuous strokes from top to bottom. The foil adhesive does not self-level, so applying this on here as smooth as you can will eliminate having really heavy brush strokes that you possibly could see through your foil. But by the time I think we're done, you probably won't notice any of them. I don't mind a little texture. I just always like to fair warn everybody that this is not a self-leveling product and it's not going to smooth out. Foil adhesive has to also dry completely before you go on to your next layer. So you're going to want to let this layer dry for at least an hour. So if you're in a hurry and you're anxious, just set a timer so that you don't try to go to the next step too soon. So I'm going to put this onto the cup turner here. Okay, the cup turner is what we use once we start applying the epoxy, but it's also a great place to set your projects on while you're waiting for your layers to dry. So I'm going to go ahead and get my hand out of here. Oops, put that on the cup turner, and that way I can kind of move it around in case I feel like I've hit anything. Just going to check it first here. Make sure I don't have any drips going over the top edge. And then I'm going to go ahead and get the bottom of it. That way I can get everything applied at one time, and I don't have to wait for the sides to dry before I hit the bottom, okay? So again, remember, you gotta wait your hour. So we're gonna let this sit for about an hour and we'll be back. So now we are ready to start our application of our foil. So I picked this gorgeous foil that is called Copper Green Slade, and it is just stunning. I mean, it just looks like copper, kind of a little verdigris, little aging of patina on there, so really pretty. So what I did, just to show you guys how I could guess approximately how much to cut off, okay? I showed you in the beginning that I bought a bunch of different cups, okay? So I took one of the cups and I just started to roll the foil around it, knowing that this cup was even bigger than the one that we're working on. So I knew that that would be a big enough piece to actually work on this project. Okay, so instead of just guessing, that was what I did. Okay, I'm gonna try to lay this out to where hopefully it's not curling so that I can grab our tumbler, which is sticky, okay? So the adhesive has completely dried on here and it is super, super sticky. So as it keeps rolling, okay, it's grabbing. Let's see if I can keep that away. There we go, okay. Work with me here. So as I'm rolling it into the foil, okay, I want to make sure that it's not getting caught with the pretty side showing, okay? We want to have the adhesive only adhere to the back side. I'm going to take a soft rag, okay, and I've got some wrinkles, and that's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect. But the one thing I want to show you here, as even it's coming together, I'm going to try not to rub that cut edge, because I'd rather it come off kind of random around that edge, because I don't want to create a perfect line in my transfer. So, and this foil is such a really, really easy release that this is probably just going to come off of here almost like butter, okay? Which is really great when you're doing a foil transfer. So we're just going to rub. I'm rubbing the whole surface. I'm coming back to where they're meeting, okay? And I bent back the piece that had the line, okay? So I bent that back so that the other side could connect to it and I wouldn't have a distinctive line in my application, okay? If some of the black is showing, I'm great with that, because to me, it's just going to enhance the finish with a little black peeking through. And I'm just going to continue to rub here, make sure I got everything. And then what I'm going to do, once we peel this off, ooh, look at that, that looks so awesome, is I'm going to, okay, so where there would be a little bit that just didn't transfer and you can still see the black peeking through, all I'm going to do is put another piece of foil over that edge, okay, or that little area, and rub again, and it should fill back in, okay? So it did. So now we don't have the adhesive peeking through there. It even pulled off more than it needed to. But what I'm going to do here is just set the bottom, because I did the whole bottom. So I'm just going to set the bottom on top of it and then flip over. Now I also had put a piece of wax paper down because I didn't want my any of the adhesive to stick to my paper surface underneath, okay? So we're just going to rub the bottom of this, and because it's kind of recessed there, I'm going to have to lift it up and then allow for that to fall back into the lower areas, okay? it kind of, because the adhesive is so strong, it grabs the high points first, and then you got to release it and let it go sit down into the lower areas. And if I need to, I can always grab another fresh piece and just fill in anywhere that it didn't cover the first time. And I'm just rubbing with my fingers, okay? This, like I said, this particular foil releases really, really easy. So what I'm also going to do, because it seems a little tacky around the top edge, I'm just going to go ahead and push that into the foil, okay? And just make sure that if there is any adhesive on that edge, it's just going to pick up right now. So when I was applying the foil adhesive, it might have got a little bit on that edge, so it's a little sticky, okay? So we're just going to let it cover wherever it does. I'm going to use my soft rag to wipe off anything that is not sticking. And now we are going to get ready to put this on our cup turner and pour our epoxy. So that's what we're going to do next. So I purchased this on Amazon. It's just a cup turner. There's tons of different brands out there. So just do your shopping and find one that is in your price range and the style you like. So basically this one came with 2 different sponges, okay, that should fit with most of your cups. And they also said that if these didn't fit, use like the little Nerf football or like a pool noodle, okay? So this one fits pretty tight in here, but you're gonna put your foam on here first, okay? And then the other thing is I've got my wax paper underneath, okay? Because it's going to drip and we wanna make sure that we've got something underneath, okay? We might even go grab another piece of wax paper and just make sure that we have complete coverage, okay? Because you want to protect your surface because it's going to drip, okay? It's kind of a messy thing. Your epoxy is going to drip off. So I'm covering the surface underneath as well as I want to cover my cup turner, okay? So I'm using press and seal. Okay, good old press and seal. Love this stuff. I use it for so many different projects, okay? But this I'm going to use to cover, again, that I don't want the epoxy to get onto the cup turner, okay? So I'm just covering it and protecting it. And that way, the press and seal kind of sticks, and that way I know it will protect, okay? So now we're going to go ahead and shove our cup on here, okay? And I want to make sure that I shove the foam all the way in there because it's going to drip, okay? And we're going to try to make sure it's not dripping on the foam. So that should be okay there. And now it's a matter of mixing up our epoxy. So if you're not familiar, we're going to use liquid glass, and this is the epoxy that we carry here. It's a 2-part epoxy. You have your resin and you have your hardener, okay? So your resin is what I always call part A, and this is just the way I learned, okay? So I always put A on my resin, okay? And then I put, it says hardener on here and resin on it, B on my hardener. Now I'm gonna confuse you even more because I have learned by so many different people, but what I've been told by everybody is you want to pour part B first and then pour A into it. And the reason being is the thickness of the materials is different, and A mixes easier into B. So that is the direction and the way and the reason why we do that. Okay, I'm looking for a clean stir stick, or as clean as I can find, okay? We have these great little measuring cups that I found on Amazon, and they're wonderful. So there's tons of different measurements here that you can use because you want to be precise. We probably don't need too much here, but I'm gonna go ahead and mix up 2 ounces, okay? That's probably more than I need, but I think that's my lowest measurement on here. So yes, we'll have plenty of product to do a couple of projects. So I'm gonna pour part B first, okay? So that's your hardener. Just gonna turn the jar around, hardener, part B. I'm gonna pour this in until I hit that 1 ounce line. And I'm trying to be very, very precise because having equal parts guarantees the fact that your epoxy is going to set up. So this one here, I know it's written in white, so it's probably hard to see, but it says resin, and that's why I marked it A. And remember, I always put part B in first and mix A into it. Well, I thought this was open. Sorry, guys. Let's pop that one. Guess we didn't get everything opened. Okay, so I'm going to, again, do my equal parts. I'm going to put my 2nd ounce in. And like I said, try to be really, really careful about being equal. If you ever have your epoxy not want to set up, part of the reason could be that you didn't get equal amounts, or possibly you didn't scrape everything really well, okay? So you want to scrape the sides of the container, you want to scrape the bottom, and you want to do this for about 2 minutes. And don't worry about getting any bubbles in it, okay? We're going to make the bubbles go away with our heat gun. So just go ahead and mix, 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 and do this for about 2 minutes. Okay, once you've mixed for about 2 minutes, you should be good. And then I found something called diamond dust, or actually this is gold dust, okay? And we're just gonna add a tiny bit of this because a little bit goes a long, long ways. Now, my best description of this is that it's somewhere between a glitter and a mica powder. So it's very, very fine. And a little bit goes a long way, so I barely put any in there, okay? So you might wanna just check it out, see what you can find. But a lot of different epoxy companies starting to carry different things that you can add to your epoxy. So we've got some of our gold dust in there, and I'm stirring that well. And then let's go ahead and turn on our cup turner, okay? So it's starting to spin. And all we're going to do is basically drizzle our epoxy on here to give our full coverage, okay? So it's spinning so that it will continue to turn and run together. So this is gonna be awesome. And I'm doing a real subtle epoxy pour on this because the foil I picked is amazing all on its own. We just wanna be able to protect it and be able to use this as a drinking, because this is a food safe epoxy. So once it's completely cured, you'll be able to drink out of this. So that'll be really cool. So the only thing I added to the epoxy is just the gold dust, okay? So we can also use a foam brush. So I'm gonna grab a foam brush. So just grab yourself a foam brush, and you can also just brush it on. And the epoxy is self-leveling, so as it's spinning, it's going to level, it's going to drip everywhere as well. But this will definitely give you full coverage here, okay? Now, the other thing with the cup turner is you have to leave it on this turner for 8 to 10 hours, okay? That way it continues to spin and the epoxy levels, and that way it's not all running to one side and getting stuck somewhere, okay? So this is just a project that you would probably want to start in the morning if you could, and that way you can kind of babysit and make sure that everything is cool as it's spinning all day long. I have some friends that actually have several of these spinners, and they just get a whole bunch of cups going at one time, which is really cool. So not only am I going to spread it out across the side, and I'm just, as it's spinning, I'm just making sure that I've got complete coverage, but I'm also going to go ahead and wipe it onto the bottom so that we have 100% coverage here. And once I feel like I've got full coverage, just making sure the top edge, the bottom edge, and that there's no area that there's no product. So you can kind of see how thick or thin it is as it's spinning. So just catch any area that you feel like you need to add a little bit more. Oh, this is going to be so fun. Look how gorgeous that is. Hopefully you can see the little sparkle from the gold dust as it's spinning around. That is so cool. Okay, so I feel like I've got full coverage. I'm not seeing any spot that doesn't have something. And now I'm going to go ahead and heat this up with a blowtorch, okay? That way all of our bubbles are going to come out. Now, for a small project like this, you could use like the little blowtorch from your kitchen for creme brulee, okay? I just happen to do a lot of epoxy, so we have a big blowtorch. So as that's spinning, I'm just basically heating the surface, which is going to bring the bubbles to the surface and clear it out. I'm going to hit the base of it as well, okay? And then continue to let it spin. Now at this point, every time you heat it up, it liquefies the epoxy a little bit more. So I'm going to let this sit for probably about 10-15 minutes. And if I still feel like it's not clear or there's possibly some bubbles, I can hit it again with the blowtorch, but I don't want to do it too soon because you're going to make it so liquid, a lot of it might run off, okay? So let's continue to let this spin, wait 10 minutes, we'll blowtorch it again, and then it's just going to sit here on the spinner, okay, the cup spinner, for 8 to 10 hours. And then we can take this off and reveal it. So our cup is completely done. This has turned out absolutely fabulous. You can see that beautiful diamond dust in there, the gold diamond dust, I should say. And it's completely epoxied, ready to go, so we can pour our favorite beverage and sip. We'll see you soon. So the tumbler is completely done, and I have brought it home so that I can actually use this, and I'm so excited. We're going to make me a skinny margarita and go out onto the front porch and enjoy my evening. Hope you've enjoyed this and that you can see all of that beautiful gold dust and foil. Turned out fabulous. See you guys soon.